So how was your day? What did you do today? What brought you here?
Yeah, so I was working today in the office. I work in the office for Paradiso now. So the Tuesdays are always very busy as it has a lot of meetings and like catch ups. So it's always, it's nice, but you don't really get to do as much work as you like because you have so many meetings. But it was all right, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. Interesting. So what does how does your day look like? Let's say in Paradiso. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so usually I go to the office like 3 times a week. So from Tuesday till Thursday. And we usually like the first 2 days are always like a lot of meetings, catching up about programs, about the programming, about marketing, about everything basically, about how the last week went, what's coming. I have a lot of meetings with like external partners on these days as well. Yeah, I plan ahead most of the time these days, like announcing new shows or whatever. That's all something that I have to take care of. So that's basically what it looks like. And then maybe from Thursday until like Sunday, I have a lot of shows in the weekends that I have to visit. So that's what that looks like. Yeah. I go and see what the shows are actually looking like. So that's also nice. It's a bit like, it's 50-50, I guess. So, yeah.
That might be interesting from my perspective, or also from the perspective of the our viewers or followers, so to say. What did you two meet?
Maybe I can tell it. Yeah,
Sure.
we met at ADE last October. So in October 23.
It was so far back. Okay.
Yeah, I was at the keynote in, I don't know what was the exact location, but I remember that the workshop was called the keynote Do's and Don'ts of the Backstage.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we followed on Instagram, and then I had you on my feed, and I watched. Okay, you're working with events, blah blah blah, and this and that.
Yeah.
We're now again filming this, so I said, of course, why not reaching out? So that's how we met, actually.
Was that also keynote with Farah?
Yeah, Farah Grace was also there.
Okay. Yeah. Now I have like the picture of
Yeah, we
how
were on
you
the
met.
panel together, so that was really fun.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
And what brought you to that panel? What's the story behind your ADE experience? How was that for you?
Yeah, so one of the students who organized this panel, they actually organized a whole program within that building, I think. So like workshops and like panels and stuff. And they reached out to see if I wanted to have a talk with them about the backstage do's and don'ts, and with some girls that I already knew. So that was really nice because I had never done something like that before, or like been part of ADE before. So yeah, she reached out and I was like, I'm not sure if this is something I would want to do, because I wasn't sure like how busy it would be. But actually it was really nice. I think everyone who was there super interested, friendly, and the girls who I did the panel with, I already knew them a little bit, so that was already nice. Like you could watch each other a little bit, what you can say, and we've been through things together as well at festivals, so that was really nice. Yeah.
So when did you start working on events, or what's your like earliest memory of some experience in events? When did you start?
I think it's already maybe 8 years ago, because I was starting my my studies. I did marketing, communications, and events, so it was like a bit all over the place. It was a lot. And I reached out to Paradiso to see if they could give me some internship hours, just like free hours that I could use to write down for that. And then I think that's when I started like doing things like every weekend or something. I started handing out flyers and stuff. And then for my studies, we had to do this more often at like a bit bigger events, also more corporate events. So I think that's already 8 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm. So like it started with an internship. What did you study exactly? Some event management, or how does that work?
Yeah, so first year it was marketing, events, and communication, and then afterwards you had to choose or decide which way you wanted to go. And then, yeah, I chose for the events and marketing. And I did my exam year together with the School of House. I'm not sure if they still exist under that name, but this was like, yeah, a program where you could learn a bit more, especially like about the dance industry. So, you have the live events and more bands and live music, but this was more towards the dance music events. And then, yeah, started doing a bit like freelance projects just to gain some experience for festivals. Just really, not really artist related, maybe, but yeah, handing out flyers or something like that.
And that was so. You said the program you've been on, but I'm not sure I catch the university. Is that like in Amsterdam?
Yeah, so they were based in Amsterdam. They were called the School of House, but I'm not sure if they're still operating under this name. But this was something, I think, 6 years ago that they were active, and then they hosted with ROC, with the school. They hosted the exam year, so you could choose to do it with them, and then they would learn you a little bit more on how to, host an event, and they would have like people coming over for presentations and like basically the do's and don'ts for like events and stuff. And then on the last project, we had to host an event ourselves. So that
Oh,
was
okay.
how I learned. It was a bit of yeah, a quicker study than usual. Like it's not like 3 years or something. It was just in 1 year, but that's basically how I learned the most. Yeah.
And it's more of practical approach. So like yeah,
Yeah.
you got the whole um thing on paper, but then you like really fast turn it into a practice, right?
Yeah, exactly. So not much like learning from books, but they showed you a lot, and then they invited people from the industry and such like that. So yeah, that was really, really helpful.
And what was your first bigger festival that you worked on, or for example, apart from Paradiso?
Yeah, I think it was the first that I really worked for was where I did artist handling basically was Digital Festival, because I started my internship with APCO events, and they do all these big festivals. So yeah, after I finished school and I had to do an internship for school, I started with them, and I think that was the first. Yeah, it's always in April. So yeah,
And
that's
how would you not describe, but yeah, how do you feel about, for example, you said you're in the event business for 8 years, if I'm correct?
yeah.
How would you describe your lifestyle? You said you go to the office 3 times a week, and then of course you go also to your events around Amsterdam or around the Netherlands. How would you describe your lifestyle? You think that is something pretty normal if you're in the music scene or in Amsterdam in general, or would you say like maybe it stands out a bit? Um,
Well, I think
because
in this industry, I see a lot of people, they don't go to the office on Mondays. That's for sure. Like no one is there. And I think the hours are way different. So I think it's a bit of the regular, especially if you're hosting events yourself. You have to keep in mind that, yeah, you have to see what's happening there, or if you're booking certain artists, that you go and see them. So for what I hear from like around me, I think that's kind of a normal, yeah, work week, even though it's like not 9 to 5 or 5 days a week. So yeah.
And when you mentioned digital festival, right now you are probably a run team. Everybody knows what they have to do. I guess, can you take us through a process of, let's say, your part preparing for an event and then up until to execution? When does your work start? For example, for next edition.
Well, for if I freelance for a festival, what I usually do is I make sure that I know what my role is. So it depends. Sometimes I do stage management, or sometimes, for example, last weekend I did artist transport coordination. So that's also a bit different. But if I prepare for like stage managing, I make sure that I read the briefing from the organization really well. Make sure that I know who the artists are, so I always look them up, or maybe on Instagram or Google them, so I know kind of like what they look like, if there's anything like that they usually do. Some artists climb on stage or whatever. Get in a bit prepared. I pack enough stuff. Like if I stage manage, then I have a lot of like gadgets that I have.
What are some of those? What do you use?
Maybe a bottle opener or like a small knife or some tape or a flashlight. So these are all things that you can need sometimes, but they never provide this or they never have this. So I have a little set of things that I usually get. But if
Like
I
your
do
own
like,
pack that you bring
yeah,
to the event.
yeah,
Okay.
so I have like a
Always have a backup.
small bag where I have all the stuff just in case that they don't have it, or sometimes you have to cut like lemons or something and then you don't have anything to cut it with, and then yeah, it's easy if you have it. Like I gained that over the years that they don't always have everything on site, so it's always good to come prepared.
Absolutely.
I think that's the things that I do to prepare. Yeah, just read the briefing really thoroughly, because sometimes there's something special on stage or like time codes, shows. So yeah, I think that's what I do.
Yeah. And what would you say was the most difficult artist or his like management or yeah, artist group to work with so far? You don't have to name it, just like maybe some special cases where yeah, you said that maybe the show was with the time coded, but there was no technical stuff. For example, I don't know, VGA cables ready, or you had to like uh, deal with it on the spot.
I think I haven't really like. Sometimes you read a writer for the artist, and it seems like they're going to be like a really big deal, or it looks like they're going to be rude, or you don't really know if it's going well. But then in the end, they're quite nice, and it's all going well. But yeah, of course, I've had before that. Then there's a manager or something, and they're really strict, or they need everything to go right. But to be honest, I think, yeah, maybe it's been sometimes just that like something technical, um, was like a bit difficult. I've had this before at like venues where, you know, they think they're experienced enough with like setting up all the technical stuff, like mixers and linking the CDJs, and they're not linked. I think that's the only thing that I've really seen for now that's really gone wrong, and then we had to really make sure it was all connected in that moment. But I think it's always beforehand that it seems like it's going to be a big deal, and then in the end it usually works out. So yeah, I can't really
Yeah.
name one artist right now that I think, yeah, no.
And what for you, just to extend the question, sorry, David, what was the biggest deal, the biggest artist for you that you worked with?
Well, last year I got to work on an event in Rotterdam, and we did this one time with Warehouse Project, where they hosted an event in Rotterdam, and their lineup was pretty like something that I would really go to. So this was really nice, and they had Bicep on the lineup, which I'm a really big fan of, and I've seen them before, but this was like, getting to work with them was really nice, and Overmono as well, really
Hmm.
big fan of them. So, but for like a lot of artists, sometimes you see them quite often, but this was something that was really nice for me. And what I do remember from my first event with Digital, actually, I was then a really big fan of Dax J, and he was playing a live set there, so he had to come soundcheck in the morning, and that was like, yeah, that was something for me. It was really nice to see him up close. He was super nice, and we talked for a bit. So that was like the first experience for me that I really got to see someone I was a big fan of. But to be honest, now it's like I know they're all just humans, so I try to not be a big fan behind the stage. But yeah, it's always nice to see these people you're a big fan of. So
And
yeah,
if the party is good and you like the lineup, there's always probably like a little temptation, right? You're partying, but at the same time you're working.
yeah,
There's people around you drinking. You have to keep it cool. You have to be professional.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes it sucks if you really want to see something or someone's set and yeah, there's no time because you have to work, of course. So that's always, something from the beginning. But yeah, that's something that can suck a little bit if you don't have any time. But I think for like the drinking and stuff, for me, I never feel like I get influenced by any of that. I think because I know that I'm working, I'm also not in that mood, not really in the party mood. So I can also just listen and enjoy the music without, being really in the party mood. I can also be, in the back, in the corner, just watching, and that's also fine for me.
Nice. And how would you, for example, if we go role by role, we mentioned you're working on different types of events, different roles. For example, how would you explain to your 4-year-old nephew what is stage managing?
Maybe I would say it's more babysitting, and maybe you're babysitting the artist sometimes, and also you can be like a bar lady because there's a lot of people that come to the stage and they expect free drinks or something like that. So sometimes at certain events can feel like you're just behind the bar. Um, but basically, if it goes about the artist, then I would say, yeah, you're watching them very closely and taking care of them. So maybe you could say babysitting, I guess would be a nice word.
I would also call it your, let's say, also in artist management and sometimes in booking, you feel like you're a professional friend. You have to be,
Yeah.
there, likable, but still
Yeah,
for
that works
support
too.
mostly because it's not rocket science, right?
No, it's not. But I think you have to feel a little bit like who wants what. Some artists
Exactly.
want to have like a talk, and some are like, please don't talk to me. So yeah, it really depends.
Yeah. So in Netherlands, I mean, of course, the scene is super like how would I say? It's all rounded. So it's not like just techno. It's not like just drum and bass. It's not like just dance. But would you say to maybe just like turn a bit of off the road or maybe in some other direction? Which genre would you say is the most popular between people that are 20 to 35 years old?
Well, I think maybe it would be more house music, but I also see that festivals like Verknipt, where I was working last weekend, which is hard techno, is also very popular and also like really a hit. So I do definitely see a big hype at the moment in the electronic music, and especially like the hard techno, hard house as well is really big, and like trance, which is also, you know, it's it's pretty like open. I think if you like house music and you would like to listen to trance, I think it makes sense because it's not super difficult to change between those styles, but it's harder. So it's like hard house, trance, hard techno. I see a lot of people going there. Yeah, I think that's, if I would say something to be popular right now, it's definitely that.
And how long do you think this will last, for example? Because now, of course, everything is in trends. Something that was in
Hmm.
trends, let's say
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago. Okay, we were not there, but you know that something was in trend, hard techno, now it's coming back. What do you think is going to be, let's say, for the next 5 years or something? Do you see a sound emerging that is not right now super big, but it's kind of stepping in slowly?
Well, maybe not something that's not really been popular before, but I think like real house is going to come back, because it's like a lot of people want to go a bit harder now, and they think house is a bit too soft. So they all go to harder styles, and eventually, like, a lot of people go to the hard techno events, like Nog College or Verknipt, or even Awakenings has some quite hard styles on their festivals, for example. And it works really well, but I think that at some point people are going to be a bit tired of it, because it's quite, it's so hard and it's quite the same as well. And so I think, because house right now is also still quite big, of course, but I think it's going to take over a bit more than it's going to shift the way that it was, I think so.
Mhm. And also probably, what do you think? It depends on the age group, because right now we see all these kids in hard techno, but I
Yeah.
remember even for myself, okay, let's say 4 years ago, I could dance to 150 BPM, and right now it's going like 1
Yeah.
BPM down per year, I think, and maybe
No, I feel
one
the
one
same
less
way.
hour. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that. I think that when you get a little bit older and you don't really follow that hype anymore, because of course the hard techno is also like a bit of a TikTok trend, and like, it's like people see this and they're like, wow, it looks so cool. But eventually when you get older, like, you start discovering different kind of genres, and I think for sure going to be a bit less hard is what people will eventually go to.
Yeah,
And what
I
do
can
you-
agree also with David, as he said,
yeah.
like 1 year 1 year older, 1 BPM less on the regular.
Yeah.
But I was always wondering, I mean, of course it's gonna be like that also for the population in Netherlands, but still the hardcore was born in Netherlands. And I
True.
don't know how is that like culturally um how to say integrated or like implemented with culture, like because I could never say that my dad or my mom listened to hardcore when they were young,
Hmm.
but I know that's not the example for Dutch people. A lot of them were going to raves back then, so maybe it can be a bit different situation. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it could be like my parents, they never listened to any of this. So I think it's also maybe a bit of a smaller group, but I also do see that there's a lot of Dutch kids. They just go to raves with their parents, for example. So I think that's something that's really Dutch indeed. So yeah, I do see that, but still, like, after a while, I think they all get a bit tired of the hard stuff, and especially like their parents also know, because they probably been through that as well. They used to go to these raves, and then eventually they were like, okay, going to take it down a little bit and going to different parties. So, but I do think like it's a really Dutch thing for these kids to go to the festivals with their parents or something. I don't think there's a lot of countries where it's so open, maybe. So yeah, that's nice.
It's in the culture. I mean, it's completely
Yeah.
different. For example, where we come from Slovenia, it's this kind of music, electronic. It's not super popular. It's still like a little bit more niche. Okay, you have of course some of the big commercial events, but let's say maximum capacity you could gather on an electronic event, let's say around 2 to 3,000 is like
Mm.
really the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is even like the capacity that you can get if like every half a year. So, for example, we have promoters, like bigger promoters that do events like these from 2,000 to 4,000 events, and they do it like once every 4 to 6 months, Like it could never happen in such a short period of time.
No.
But the capacity we could be talking about is maybe, but that's really like numbers are crazy. For us, not for us, but for I suppose for you, because the numbers are so small. Of course, Slovenia is even a smaller country, but the pool of people that go out to listen to that kind of music is so small that we can maximum get 1 to 2 events with 500 people in a month for specifically techno, And then you have house. still, super small. And yeah, that's maybe the thing what we struggle here with. And it's so funny, or not funny, it's so interesting to see now all the Verknipt selling out without even the lineup, like 20, 30, 40,000 arenas,
Yeah, that's crazy if you compare that to Slovenia then, because there are so many techno events in one weekend here that you cannot. I don't think it's comparable, but that's really, really interesting. Yeah, but I think it's only the last years that it's become so mainstream here. I think a few years ago when I would talk about this to my friends or like name an artist, they had no idea, and now some of them, for example, Marlon Hofstad, I think if you say his name, like almost everyone will know who he is, and I think that's quite crazy because a few years back they had no clue like this kind of segment of festivals, but now it's gone so mainstream. Yeah.
And would you say that people that go to the festivals, do they go because of the rave culture, or they um, um, label themselves as a like ravers, or because they are into music and they like wanna listen to different genres, and that's the genre where they found themselves the most.
Yeah, I think the rave culture is quite big because I think a lot of people that go to these festivals, they only know maybe the big names because everyone is talking about them, but they're not really interested in all the like the rest of the lineup, or they don't really do any research. They know what the party is going to be like. They know like how the people are gonna dress, for example, or what yeah, what kind of the do's and don'ts are on this sort of festival. So I think they just mainly go for that, and there of course will be people who really see what's like on the lineup and go from stage to stage. But I think nowadays it's not really like that anymore. People just go for the party. They like to see some of the artists, but only like the really big ones, I think.
I would like to, following up on this, I would like to open one topic that I remember from AD. And it is, I don't know, the keynote before you, so before Do's and Don'ts, there was a keynote about future of festivals and sustainability. And I know one gentleman was speaking who had a, I think, big company for security.
Okay.
And then he said, not super connected to security, but there's like an inflation of festivals in the Benelux area. It's like 1,300 festivals per year, something like that. And a lot of them also being cancelled more and more due to higher costs or something like that. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I definitely have seen this before because everything is so expensive, and you make up like a whole list for yourself what kind of break even you have to get to even make some money, or for it to be even you know nice to have this festival at all. Like if you sell only maybe 50% of the tickets that you were supposed to sell, then sometimes it's even cheaper to cancel the whole thing than to actually go through with it. So I have seen this, yeah, many times, and I think that really sucks. But I also think because there are so many festivals, like because it's so expensive, I can definitely understand that young people that they don't have the money to go out every weekend and they choose only the ones they really want to go to, because it's already a ticket can easily be like 80 euros for just one day, and then you're not even there yet. So yeah, I definitely understand that people are not, buying tickets as easy, but it also sucks for the organization because, yeah, it's not worth it if you only sell just a few tickets. Like, yeah, it's just not worth it in the end. So I do understand why they cancel then.
Mhm. Do you also did some events, for example, yourself or like a mini festival? Because we also do events, right, in Slovenia. And last year we did like a mini festival. And once you start adding all of those Excel lines, to the budget sheet, then you can like more understand when you go to a festival or to a
Yeah.
club, like why a ticket is as you said, 50 euro, 60 euro or something like that. And you're anyway operating on to be happy on a 15 to 10% margin.
Yeah, I think for what we've done over the last few months at Paradiso, for example, sometimes you want to book an expensive artist or something and you start adding it up, and like you don't want a club ticket, for example, to be higher than maybe 20 euros or something, but sometimes it just doesn't work if it's not expensive. So then we will not do it, simply because you also know that people might not gonna buy that ticket. And I see this with like outside festivals as well. Like everything is so expensive, and I think nowadays having enough security and thinking of other things that were maybe there a few years ago, like going more sustainable. Indeed, for example, it's really expensive, and yeah, if you make the choice to do so, you have to sell a lot of tickets. So I do understand why people maybe choose to not do their event like this edition again, because it's not going to be worth it sometimes.
And what are some of the improvements, for example, that you did from last to this year in Paradiso? What are some of the learning lessons, let's say, from last year? What did you learn?
Well, so I started last year at Paradiso, and I actually started as an assistant. So I was the assistant of two bookers there. And now I'm also making my own programs because I am now a junior booker. So I've definitely learned a lot, and especially with making these kind of programs like club nights we usually do, or concerts, for example. And it's just, it's really, you have to really check out everything in the budget and make sure like the ticket prices they need to get right. If they're too high, sometimes people won't buy them, of course, because it's too expensive for them. But that's definitely something, that's some things that I definitely have learned. I think also to see what kind of artists are really popular right now. Can definitely learn from that. Like if you book an artist and maybe just not as busy as you hope. So yeah, those are examples for what I've learned. Yeah.
And when you said that you are now booking artists for also your program, what kind of genre are you booking, for example, for your dates?
I'm usually like focusing on electronic music, and that's really broad. Like sometimes I work together with an organization and they host it, but I help them book an artist, for example, or they book their own artist and I just help from Paradiso side to help everything, get in place, get in contact with everyone. So there can also be house or like really hard techno we're doing as well. And more amapiano or Afro house. So yeah, it's really broad, but it's all electronic.
I've just seen, previously I was looking at the Instagram, you had a full crate.
Yes, yeah, he's
Yeah.
coming back soon as well. So
He's amazing. I mean,
it's really nice.
that's back then, since from my hip hop and sort of beat making era, and like his vibe and energy, amazing. Would love to see him play.
Yeah, he's great. I think he comes back maybe once a year or something to Parallel, which is Paradiso's club basically in Amsterdam North. So it's also nice because it's a bit of a smaller environment than Paradiso, because Paradiso is quite big, of course. So artists like Full Crate or FS Green, Jael, if these artists come back to our club, it's such a vibe. It's really nice. Yeah.
And what's the capacity you mentioned? How big is the venue?
So Paradiso is 1,500, and then Parallel is 700. So almost half of it.
Okay, pretty solid. Pretty solid.
Yeah.
And when does your season end or start? Do you have like a summer break, like some clubs do it?
Yeah, we're sort of closing, but also have some events. We're doing some Pride events, for example, and there's just some events that we have in the summer that are not really affected by festivals. It's a different genre, for example. So Paradiso doesn't close at all. Actually, we will have something every weekend because it's not just me programming. We have a lot of colleagues, and they all, they come from very different scenes. So it's always like something completely different that you can think of, like a club night. That's just something that's not involved with the festival at all. So then they can sell enough tickets. But with Parallel, we usually we close on Fridays, and
That's
then
interesting. Okay.
yeah, some Saturdays too, but Saturdays are sometimes maybe a bit easier to sell. I don't know. So we're going to try it this year. I think last year we were more we closed a bit more than this year. So really curious to see, yeah, how that's going to work out. But we're not going to be open 2 days a weekend because we think it's a bit too much. Yeah.
Mhm.
And is it, for example, wanted, if you wanted to open a club yourself and you had the whole program already written down, how hard would it be for you to start from the beginning?
Well, I think location depends because I think in Amsterdam there's already so much going on. So I think, yeah, if you start in Amsterdam, it's already a bit more hard than it would be, for example, in Utrecht or maybe even Rotterdam. So I think that really depends as well. And especially then where in Amsterdam you're going to be located. If you're in the city center, it's also easier than you're far in the north side or somewhere else. But yeah, I think you also have like a lot of things that you need to think through. So you can really start with a plan, but you already know um, you have to get a lot of things approved and everything like that. So I think even with the plan, it's going to be quite hard to open a club, especially with licenses and stuff. Opening times can be hard. Some clubs only can open until 5 or something. So that's also something to for sure think about. Yeah.
So what kind of licenses are also there? You said opening times.
Yeah.
What's also there? What you know?
Well, I know that you know, you have to get approved that you can have a bar inside. So you have a horecavergunning, which is yeah, that you're able to sell the drinks, for example. And some clubs have like a 24-hour license, so they can open whenever. But some also can open like between 10 and 5, something like that. So those are some main licenses that have to be approved, and it's quite hard, to get one because, as you know, like Dutch people are also, it's also very crowded in the city, so they're also very, annoyed if there's a lot of sound. So
Mm.
it's not really easy to get, a new place approved because people are always going to complain about it. So that's sort of kind of licenses that you will also need to get
Especially for outdoor events, probably.
as well. But if it's if the club would be located in a busy area or like in a neighborhood with like a lot of houses around, then it's going to be quite hard as well to get it approved.
Mm. And do you see yourself running a club, let's say in 10, 15 years, something like that? Would you be up for it?
To be honest, I don't think so. I think maybe if I get a really good idea at some point, then I would love to. But I think you really need to stand out and make sure that your club is really different than from what is already happening. And it's really hard to get something like that in your mind, I think. So for now, I would say I don't see myself opening a club. No, I would definitely be working maybe in a different one if this would not be, on my path anymore. But working for one would be something I would, but opening one, no.
But right now, at this time and place, you still see yourself in the music business.
Yeah, I think so. I think for now, I really enjoy this industry, and I think there's so much more to see for me, especially because I just basically started booking, and there's a lot of people that have been doing it for years. And I think even going into different genres, maybe even to live music or bands or whatever. That's also an opportunity that I see myself maybe do later on. So yeah, I do see myself maybe in a different company eventually, but only think that I will not be working at festivals like stage managing or such anymore. Maybe 5 years, because I think after a weekend of stage management, I'm always quite tired, and it's like, especially if you have to go back to the office and everything. So that's something I don't see myself doing anymore. But yeah, booking wise, or maybe in the office, yeah, for sure.
Everybody moves from the dance floor then to the office on the festival, and then only to the office beforehand.
Exactly. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the road to go, and I do see myself taking that road as well. Yeah.
People also ask us, okay, you work in events. For example, I work here in Berlin in the agency. Oh, you work in music. Oh, you must party all the time. But it's 9 p.m.
Yeah, you're still working, and then you're going
typing
to sleep.
typing on computer, and then I go home, and then it's like
Yeah.
like a regular job.
But do you visit a lot of the events that you do with the artist, or?
Not super much, not super much. Only if they are here in Berlin
Yeah.
playing. There, then it's like a very good gesture that you go there, you say hi, you show your support.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you now that I mentioned, okay, it can be like almost any other office work. For example, for you, the bookings. What does it make? What makes it worth for you? Which moment of the event is your favorite moment, and then pays up all the let's say boring work in the office?
Well, it depends, because sometimes we work together with an external host. I don't have to do that much for it, but I still work with them. And if I go to their event and I can see that they're like super proud of hosting their event, yeah, that really makes it worth it. And they're super thankful. Then I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm super happy for them that we can do this. And if I'm booking certain artists, for me, I try to, especially the artists that I book myself, I try to always go, or at least, introduce myself if I'm able to go, of course. And I think even having a small talk with these artists and seeing them at our clubs, yeah, that makes it worth it for sure. If it's something that I'm like quite a big fan of secretly, then it's like,
Go
it
for
pays
yourself.
off. But especially if I see the crowd fill up and like people are enjoying it, because that's the artist and them enjoying it with the crowd together. Yeah, that's definitely the moment that it pays off, even though it's maybe 4 a.m. or something and I'm kind of tired. But yeah, for sure, that makes it really worth it.
Also, remember when we were doing our own events, for example, back in Slovenia, everybody's partying, but you're there working on the door, putting wristbands on,
Yeah.
helping a little bit on the bar. But then when it's 6 a.m. and when groups of people, like 3 to 4, going back home to Texas, and when they tell you, okay, this was the best party I've ever been to, then it kind of makes it worth
Yeah, of
for
course. And you
us.
can really feel proud of it, because yeah, usually during the night or day itself, you don't have a lot of time to actually enjoy it. So yeah, I can imagine that feels really nice.
Mm.
And how about I wanted to ask you, um, I think in Netherlands, or at least I have a sense that in Netherlands, everything is regarding the music industry, everything is like more professional because it's of course a bigger industry and a lot of competition, and it has to be in order to properly work. Um, how's the how is the like the balance between people that you worked with? For example, you said other promoters that do parties at your venue. Do they like get fucked up during their event, or do they have like in mind, okay, it's my event, I have to be like sharp to get it done? What's the balance between the people that maybe don't take it so seriously, or that people that take it very seriously?
I think there's more people that do take it seriously. So I mean, of course, they can have a drink or whatever. I will not like judge them for it, but it depends really what state you're in. Definitely, like afterwards, like if you can still talk to the artist or whatever. But yeah, I have seen events where, the bookers and the organization, they're not sober at all. And I do think it's quite a bad look. I mean, you can do whatever you want yourself. And even if people are working for you, it's going to be fixed and it's going to be fine. But yeah, it's a bit 50-50. I see a lot of people that are just very seriously and they will not do anything during that they're working. Only like maybe when they're finished, have a little drink just to, finish off the night. But I also definitely see a lot of people who don't know how to behave, basically. So yeah, I don't know. I think it has quite a bad look on artists and maybe bookers that come with the artists or managers. I think it's not professional, but it's also something that's kind of accepted, I think, in the scene. So
Sure. If we go quickly back to that AD topic, let's say I am an artist and this weekend it's my first time playing on, I don't know, Awakenings. What would you tell me? What are the do's and don'ts? If we go really specifically, how should I behave? What's one thing I should absolutely not do? What would you tell me?
well, I think what I see with like a lot of new artists, like after their set or something, like they stay for the whole festival because, of course, this is quite smart for them to, start networking and talk to other artists maybe. So I think it's always my advice for artists and maybe people that are working just to stay true to yourself, like really be who you are and don't try and be someone else or try to act different than what you are. And I do think I would say maybe try to not drink or do as many drugs because I think it's also maybe you start forgetting the whole experience. And I think if you really want to experience the whole day, then try to not do that as much. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Just keep it real and be normal. Don't like push into people. If you see your favorite DJ, don't run up to them and
Oh, for
bother
sure.
them. But still, if you are genuinely happy to see someone, probably always
I mean, of
a good
course, and I
to
think
say
I
hi.
think you can definitely do something like that. It's just when someone gives you kind of signals that maybe they don't want to speak to you, or maybe someone is preparing for their set or is talking to someone else, then try to keep it down a bit. Of course, I think it's always nice for other artists when people show their love for their music. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's good to keep in mind that try and feel a little bit what the other people what they want. Like if they want to have a conversation, then go for it, but try to keep it down a little bit so they can also feel a bit at ease instead of it being like a lot.
Mhm.
Speaking of newer artists, um, do you think that and of course when you said that staying true to yourself, but right now as I see in like in the hard techno scene, I mean hard techno like hardcore-ish, that now as it's getting more popular, there's more and more like wannabe superstars, trying to like um
Yeah.
how to say like explode into like the I don't know maybe even EDM or that like pop-ish glam-ish world, and they also like do kind of artistically unethical stuff in terms of like buying followers. Of course, it's a business, we have to sell tickets, or
True.
you have to sell tickets, and the artist has to have some sort of social media presence, but still, what do you think is like the balance between going out of your comfort zone, or maybe even like push it just a little to like raise your price, or like, I don't know, maybe excel your career, or like stay true to yourself 100% no matter what?
I think it's important that they don't do anything that they don't feel comfortable with, because you're gonna put stuff on the internet maybe that is not something, yeah, you're gonna be proud of. But I do understand like the whole marketing around it, and I see this a lot too, especially with hard techno. Like they have videographers like all over the place. They film everything, then they post it, and it goes pretty big. So I do get it. I do understand if you push that a little bit more. But I'm also working together with the DJ for an event we do in parallel, and he's actually like basically our co-host. He's programming it with us, and he's also saying like, I want to promote the event, but I'm also just a DJ. So he's also not going, like, sometimes we ask him like, hey, maybe it's good if we share this, and then he's being honest like, I don't want to post that. I think it's a bit, it's not really my thing to post a photo with a poster or, whatever. And I think it's good that if they're honest about that, because, then you don't want to do something and you're thinking of, yeah, what it would look like to other people. And then they can also see that it's maybe not something you actually want to do. So I do think that staying true to yourself is in the end going to be more worth it for the long term. But I do see like artists that want to get big really quickly. Yeah, they try a lot of things. There's also, yeah, I mean, I will not judge, but I think for long term maybe it's not worth it. But I don't know.
Yeah, time shows everything.
Yeah, for sure.
You
Yeah.
never know. Would you
Yeah.
say there was, apart from attending that event-oriented school, would you say there any other pivotal moment that helped you go from, let's say, A to B? Did you meet someone or attend any event? Is there like a memorable moment?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I met someone from Apkoi events, and then I actually realized like, hey, maybe I can do my internship with them. So after a while, I applied actually, and then I did my internship there. And I think, yeah, learning everything from these festivals, because I think I was 19 at the time, so I was really young, and everyone was quite older than me. And I had a lot to say to them. Like I had to tell them how to do certain things, while I myself had no idea how to do it actually. I think I learned a lot from this, and I think, just going into these kind of events, especially like if you're working and if you want to learn more, then just go for it. And then even if you don't know everything yet, I think that's, yeah, it learns so much. I learned so much there. And I think, yeah, the person who taught me a lot was definitely my mentor there. I kind of watched how he was doing these kind of things. He was really chill as well, really easygoing, not the kind of person to get swept up with the artist or something like that. So I think this period of time was definitely the most important for my career for sure.
You learned how to stay professional, let's say, in all kinds of situation.
Yeah, for sure. And it was really hard work. Because we did a lot of events that summer, and I had to work, I think, 4 or 5 days a week in the office. So it's really like a lot. But I think even though it was a lot, and I still did everything, I didn't say no to anything. I can understand if people maybe they're bored easily, or they're tired, or maybe they don't want to get through with it. But I think if you just give it a try, then yeah, you can learn a lot from that, and then you can always afterwards see if you want to keep going. But yeah, this for me really made such a change.
Mhm.
Um, uh, David, can I ask something? Yeah. So you said you were 19 when you started with the internship. How would you say, compared to then, the representation, like the gender representation, was back then, Because I hear some people say that I mean, some people, not some people, but a lot of people say that there should be more like female music industry workers. What do you say?
I think, yeah, back then there weren't as many as there are now, because I think recently I saw that Awakenings had a lot of female stage managers and like artist crew, so that was really nice. So that's definitely not something that was happening like 5 or 6 years ago. I think there were more men. Also, I think what I realized back then, it was quite easier for men to just be, getting into it, I think, because it was just like their friends were maybe doing it, or they knew someone who was doing it, so they just like, yeah, for some reason it got a bit easier for them to get into it, I think. But these days it's more, I think there's also more artists maybe asking for more female artist crew. So I think people are opening their eyes a bit more, seeing like how can we do more 50-50 than just one woman in the whole team. So yeah, it's definitely changed a lot.
And also on the lineups, right, themselves in
For
the
sure,
program.
yeah.
I think right now we're seeing a positive shift,
Yeah.
towards everybody being able, to express.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I see a lot of women like being booked more and more. I do think it should be not because they're women, but because they're good DJs or artists, of course. So that's also something I think, yeah, something to say for. But yeah, it's definitely changed a lot since a few years, and it's also something I think me as a booker, if I book a male artist, I will always check if I can have a female DJ on the lineup who fits the sound and who's a good DJ. So yeah, that's something I definitely always think about, and I think a lot of bookers do the same now. So that's really nice. Yeah.
So apart from Paradiso, are there any other projects you're currently working on that you can share? What's up for you for summer? How busy is your schedule?
To be honest, I don't have that much going on, which I don't really mind because now I actually have some festivals that I can attend myself. So it's always been different than that. But I was working for Verknipt last weekend, and I'm going to do a few more shows, and then Mysteryland is on the planning as well for me to stage manage. So that's also something I'm looking forward to.
In-
But besides that, I'm going to some festivals myself, actually. So that's also nice.
Amazing. Can we go a little bit back to the weekend before? You were responsible for the driving coordination, correct?
Yeah.
For Verknipt Festival. How big, let's say, Verknipt Festival, what's the capacity there? 15, 20K, 30? I don't know how
Yeah,
much.
I think between 15 and 20K.
15 and 20.
Yeah.
And what's the artist care team? How big is it? And I'm interested, how do you communicate between each teams, and what is the structure? What does the structure look like behind the scenes?
So I think there's maybe in total 20 or 25 people working in the whole team. So that's really nice, actually. And that's not including all the drivers. So I think in total, then it would be 30 something. Um, but there's some people that work there that do all the artist advancing. So they fix everything for the artist beforehand, and they're also present during the weekend. Um, and then we have stage managers and runners, which will take the artist to the stage. And then we have me, who is coordinating all the transport for the artist. Then we have some drivers who are picking up the artist from the hotel and the airport and stuff. We have artist check-in, so there's people. The artists come in, they get a wristband, and they usually get a little gift from Verknipt as well. So we give it to them. We ask someone to bring them to the stage. Then they get introduced to the stage manager. Then we also have an extra stage manager. So there's mostly like two, I think, on one stage. So there's like plenty of people that can take care of the artist. and then when they want to go back, someone will take them back to the artist check-in, and then back to the car, and then they basically from the moment that they leave the airport or the hotel, they're in care of someone from the festival. So that's really, really nice.
Quite a big thing. And are there some of the challenges that happened that you had to work through that you can share, maybe, if you can?
Well, it's always funny because sometimes we schedule in for the artist to go back to the hotel at a certain time. I would say maybe they play at 5 or something, they finish at 7, then we plan for them to go back at 8. But of course, they never really want to leave the festival, only if maybe they have another gig or they have a flight to catch. So it's always, for me, in this role, it's quite like a struggle to make sure that all the artists are able to come back, because we only have we have cars with 7 spots in them, but we cannot take everyone from the festival at the same time. So it's kind of like a puzzle that I have to make each time, but I like it, like, to see if I can make the artists fit into the fans and like how many people they're with, or try and get them as far as getting back. But usually they really want to stay, so it's a good thing, I guess. They're enjoying themselves, but it's quite hard for me to get them back to the hotel if they don't want to leave. So
But you
yeah.
tell them your drive was scheduled, and if you're not on time, then that's it, And do you have like a backup driver at all times?
Yeah, so for this event, we worked, I think, with 4 drivers, and they just go back and forth between certain places to pick up the artist. And then at the end, we will all have them at the festival, so we can take as many people back to the hotel. So that's really nice. But sometimes there's even more that want to go back, so then we have to discuss it, like, okay, can we take you maybe at 9 instead of 8, and then I can make it work. So but that's definitely sometimes a struggle.
And how would you say, um, for foreigners like us, how hard would it be with a somehow previous experience with stage managing, event organizing, and coordinating and stuff? How hard would it be like to come to the Netherlands to work as a freelance, for example, as a stage manager? Maybe as a driver coordinator, but that's the whole another story because we don't know the paths and the city that well. But for example, just as an artist management, not management, but stage manager, runner, whatever
Well,
the
I
position.
think it's good if you're open to know that you have to gain some experience before most festivals will book you as a stage manager. When I finished my internship, actually, like, I also had to start below stage management, even though I had quite some experience already. But I get that because you got to start somewhere. So usually you would start a little bit below that. But I think it really depends. I think if you're really like into this kind of job and it's really something you want to try, then you will find your way through it. If it's something that maybe you're up to it, or it would be nice if you're with that kind of mindset, then maybe it will not really work out. But I think if it's something that you really like and you want to try out, then you can definitely find your way, because there are so many events and there's a lot of them that work with new people as well. A lot of companies that will help you find a job, or plan you in as like a runner, artist runner, or a driver maybe. So I think it's a pretty good chance to start here.
Well, no one will say no if you start, let's say, on the quote unquote at the bottom. For example, if no special responsibility, maybe just like carrying some stuff here and there.
Yeah, and I think if you can show really that you're up for it, that you're up for more, and really show your good intentions, then for sure you can get a different job. Like, you will climb the ladder quite easily. Yeah.
is there a festival or a club on your bucket list that you would like to work at in the future?
Well, so I worked for Warehouse Project last year, but that was their festival in the Netherlands. Maybe that would be something like I really liked their festival. I've never been to the club, so that would be nice. But also something like some big festival in America or something. I don't know. I would really love to see how they do it there, like Coachella or something.
EDC
Would be
maybe.
really interesting because I think it's so different than what we do here. It would be super interesting to work for them, I think.
Mhm. There's one guy I'm talking to right now. Maybe you know him. I don't know how to pronounce surname. Thijs. He works at Tomorrowland
Oh yeah, I
Festival.
think I do know him. Yeah.
Yeah, most likely. And I was just checking the Instagram, and there's a stage managing team, 30 people.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
That's systems on another level. Probably we can't even imagine how much
Yeah.
organization goes behind there. So to be
No, for
nice.
sure. Yeah, I think it's very interesting to see how they do it in different countries as well, or such big festivals. Like, yeah, I would really love to work for something like that sometime. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so uh, if you ask me, we went through all of the topics that we wanted to discuss. Like we said,
Yeah.
pretty simple, getting to know each other. We'd love to do it again sometimes. If you
Yeah.
have any other questions, maybe are there any topics you would like to speak about that we maybe didn't ask you? Is there something you want to say?
Maybe just to give people, just to say to them, I think for when I started out, I really felt like this was something where my passion was, like starting to work in events. And I think if people have the same kind of intention, then I think, yeah, as what I said, just stay true to yourself and try your best with these kind of things. You'll get really far. Something I would want to say, but yeah, maybe for topics I will definitely think about it. I mean, there's much more to discuss, I think. So
Okay, then great, Yuri. If you have something else to close.
Yeah, I really hope that also us could connect somehow in the future. If not personally, even like through telephone, but hopefully personally someday in Amsterdam.
yeah, for sure.
And yeah, really, it's been really nice talking to you. I really had an amazing talk. And I'm also super grateful to David that he's keeping up with the podcasts and with the machine of doing the program and stuff, and to be the part of it finally after my vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me for sure. It was really something kind of out of my comfort zone that I don't usually do, but really nice to do so. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for saying yes. I know. I admit it 100%. I was maybe at the end a little bit pushy. I sent you
Oh, no,
maybe
no worries.
4 reminders. Hey, 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 hey. But
No,
I knew
of
it's
course
gonna
I get
be
it. You
good
want to
one.
have an answer, and I just really forgot to check it out at some point. I was like, oh wait, no, I really, yeah, I thought it's kind of a free, conversation. It's not very focused on certain things that maybe I don't want to discuss. So yeah, it's really nice. So
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Thank you that we could get an insight of your work and your career and like the scene, um, what you see the scene in general. So yeah,
If we don't see us before, then latest is on ADE.
Yeah, for
Latest.
sure. Well, yeah, if you're ever in Amsterdam, just let me know. Then we can connect for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, then that's it for today, and speak soon.